Hello friends, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying the instruction that I'm giving you. So today we're going to be talking about chords. So chords are any time you're playing 3 or more notes at the same time. Usually we just have 3 and 4 note chords. Now when playing chords, there are 3 rules that we need to remember. Rule number 1, start at the frog. When I say frog, I don't mean here, okay? I really mean at the frog. It's so much harder to do a chord if you're starting like in the middle of your bow. Rule number 2, always play 2 and 2. So if you have a 3-note chord, say this, you're going to play 2 and 2. So that middle note is going to be played twice. And if you have a 4-note chord, then you just play the lower 2 notes and then the upper 2 notes. Rule number 3, break at the winding. So the winding is right here. So say I was playing that 4-note chord. I would start at the frog, number 1, play the lower 2 notes, stop my bow and break the chord. So I have a bunch of bow left for those top notes. Probably the biggest mistake that I see when students are trying to play chords is this. And I know I was definitely guilty of this myself. Just using way too much bow on those lower notes and not having enough left for the upper notes. Usually the upper notes are the more important notes and the ones that we want to hear more and for longer, and the lower notes, they ring more naturally a lot of the time. So they're going to ring and you don't really have to worry about those being heard. Now let's talk about another mistake that I see when students are playing chords. Let's see if you can see what's wrong with this. So my elbow was way too involved there. So I'm going to share with you an exercise called the toneless arpeggio, which is really going to help you with your chords. So when I'm playing a chord, say I'm here and I want to play that 4-note chord, right? I'm not going to move my elbow. All I'm going to do is move my fingers and then move them back. There's a little bit of elbow involvement, but not too much. So for this toneless arpeggio, start at the frog on the E string. Let your bow go over to G string and then back to E string. All that's moving is my fingers and my bow. When I'm over on G string, I'm really feeling a lot of the weight in my pinky right here. And that's exactly the motion that you want to have when playing your chords. We definitely do not want elbow to be super involved. So the first time that we have chords in the Suzuki repertoire is the Bach Bourrée, the last piece in book 3. We have this chord and this chord. The first chord has a trill over it, but it's in parentheses. I don't teach this trill because we're already like learning about the chord. I don't want to add like an extra difficulty of the trill on top of it. So first practice breaking them with those 3 rules we discussed. Start at the frog, 2 and 2, and break at the winding. And then the other one. And then your goal, of course, would be to ultimately take that break out, but keep everything else the same. Really just using a tiny bit of bow for the lower note and making sure that your elbow is not too involved. Now, if you're practicing a passage with a bunch of chords in it, this is how I suggest doing that. Take your bow away and just practice with your left hand. That way you're mapping out exactly what that left hand needs to do, the exact movement of your fingers. And then do the opposite. Practice just with the bow, breaking the chords at first so you can make sure that you have that good bow division. And then you can practice not breaking the chords. I think the 2 biggest issues when you have a bunch of chords in the same passage is the intonation can be really tricky, and then the bow divisions. You can practice fingering all of the lines, but only playing one line so that you can really isolate just that line and see if that's in tune. That's also a really good practice tip for double stops as well, fingering both notes, but only playing one note. You can also take the rhythm out so that you're really just focusing on clean intonation, your bow division, and how your fingers are moving. I think a lot of times we don't really think about the physical movements that our fingers are making, and that can be so helpful, especially in double stops and shifting. If you have any questions about chords, please leave them in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.